There are some random memories that don't feel old. They don't sit in the past. They reappear in random moments. Especially, while folding clothes, while staring at yourself in the mirror, or even while trying to sleep. And suddenly, you're not an adult anymore. You're back in a classroom, 14 years old. One joke, one hurtful memory. And the strange thing is, I don't even think the people involved remember it. But I do. God, I do. I think the hardest part about being laughed at in school is that nobody tells you the moment will stay and stay forever. Nobody warns you that one sentence, one room full of students, can quietly become the way you see yourself for years. And this story started with something very small. A forgotten lab coat. Hi guys, welcome to the Fat Girl Diary. Let me begin by asking, do you ever think about the exact moment you became aware of your body? Not physically, but emotionally. The moment you realized people were looking at you differently, judging you, measuring you, reducing you to that one thing. For some people it happened slowly. For me, I think it happened in a chemistry lab. This was in 9th grade. Chemistry practicals, new semester, new notebooks, new seating arrangement, new rules. And one of those rules was everyone had to bring a lab coat. White, clean, buttoned properly. You know how schools are. Everything has to look disciplined, controlled, uniform. And the stupid thing is, I forgot mine. That's it. That was the crime. I forgot a lab coat. Have you ever walked into a room and realized instantly you're the only person who looks wrong? Not ugly, not terrible, just wrong. Like everyone else got a memo you missed. That's what it felt like. I still remember opening that classroom door. Everyone was already there. White coats everywhere. Some oversized, some too tight. Some people rolled up their sleeves dramatically like they were surgeons. And then there was me. Just standing there in a regular uniform. And maybe, if I had been thinner or prettier or more confident, maybe it wouldn't have mattered. But when you're already uncomfortable in your body, even small things become huge. That's the thing people don't understand. When you grow up fat, you enter every room already apologizing, even if nobody asked you to. I remember trying to sit quietly, trying not to draw attention. Because sometimes you think, if I stay silent enough, small enough, still enough, maybe nobody will notice me. Did you ever do that in school? Like try to disappear without physically leaving? I used to do it all the time. Avoid eye contact, avoid raising my hand, avoid existing too loudly. You know why, guys? Because visibility felt dangerous. Anyway, then our chemistry professor walked in. Attendance, instructions, practical files, usual things followed. And then she looked at me. She asked, "Where is your lab coat?" And honestly, it felt like a normal question. A teacher asked me about my uniform. That's all. But when you already feel exposed, even normal questions feel sharp. I quietly said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I forgot." That should have been the end of it. It should have lasted 5 seconds. But some moments don't end when they're supposed to. This girl, Maria, was standing behind me. And this is the strange part. She wasn't even my bully. Well, at least not officially. We were friends, or at least I thought we were. You know those school friendships built on convenience? Sharing lunch, sharing notes, laughing at the same teachers, Not deep enough to trust, but close enough to hurt you. And then she said, she probably didn't find her size. No screaming, no dramatic insult, just a sentence. One sentence. And then, laughter. That's the part I remember most. Not even the words, but the laughter. Not loud, not movie scene bullying, no pointing fingers, no chaos. Just enough laughter to make sure I understood that everyone heard it. You know what's terrifying about small laughter? It sounds normal, like people are just having fun, like you're overreacting if you get hurt. And I remember standing there thinking, should I laugh too? Because sometimes when people humiliate you, you laugh along to survive it. Have you ever done that before? Pretend something didn't hurt, just so that nobody calls you sensitive. Some moments don't destroy you dramatically. They just quietly change the way you see yourself forever. I honestly don't remember what my face looked like. I don't remember if I smiled awkwardly, or looked down, or pretended not to care. I only remember freezing, like my brain left my body for a second. And that happens more than people realize, especially when humiliation arrives unexpectedly. You don't become brave. Honestly, you become still. And people have always asked me, why didn't you say something? Well, the fact is, because sometimes shame is paralyzing. Sometimes your mind becomes completely blank. And all you can think is, please let this end. Please let this move on. Please stop looking at me. But then something worse happened. My chemistry professor heard it. She absolutely heard it. And for one tiny second I waited. I waited for an adult to step in, to say something like, that's rude, that's unnecessary, or just say something like, enough, something, anything. Instead, she looked at me and said, girl, you must consider losing some weight. Try drinking some warm water with lemon and honey as soon as you wake up. And I swear to you guys, that hurt more than the joke, more than the laughter. Because suddenly it wasn't just one student being mean. It became the truth, validated truth, approved truth, official truth. Bullying hurts, there's no doubt about that. But being agreed with, that hurts differently. Because children already don't know how to see themselves. They borrow mirrors from other people, from parents, friends, teachers. And when a teacher confirms your worst insecurity, it stops feeling like insecurity. It becomes an identity. I think that was the first time I truly thought, maybe my body really is the problem. Not because I believed it before, but because an adult said it calmly, like a fact. Not cruelly. That's the scary part. She wasn't even angry. She probably thought she was helping. And honestly, I don't think she remembers saying it. But I carried it home with me. And then the class just continued. That's what's so strange about painful moments. The world keeps moving. Someone opened a notebook, someone laughed at another joke, someone asked for a pen, acids, experiments, instructions, normal life resumed immediately. Except inside you, nothing feels normal anymore. I stood there pretending to write notes, while replaying those 10 seconds over and over and over again in my head. Have you ever experienced that? Where something embarrassing happens, and suddenly you can hear your own heartbeat louder than the room. That's what I remember. Not chemistry, not practicals, just awareness of my stomach, my arms, my body taking up space. I don't remember the rest of the school day, but I remember going home and replaying it again and again and again. You know what's heartbreaking? Sometimes nobody has to keep bullying you. That's because you do it yourself afterwards, better than they ever could. I stood in front of the mirror that night longer than usual, looking at myself differently, noticing things I hadn't noticed before: my face, my waist, my body in my school uniform. And suddenly, I wasn't just a girl anymore. I was the fat girl. That label entered the room before I did. It wasn't the first time people saw my body. It was the first time I saw myself through their eyes. And the weirdest part? Maria and I still spoke after that. We still sat together sometimes, shared notes, had conversations. Because school friendships are strange. Nobody teaches you how to confront hurt, especially when you're desperate to belong somewhere. So instead, you pretend. You act normal. You convince yourself, it wasn't that serious. But sadly, your body remembers what your mouth refuses to say. I think after that day I started shrinking. Not physically, emotionally. I became quieter, more aware, more careful. I stopped volunteering answers sometimes. Stopped walking confidently. Stopped feeling comfortable eating in front of people. And maybe nobody noticed. But inside, something had changed permanently. It's strange how humiliation teaches you to edit yourself, to fold inward, to take up less space. I don't hate them, that's the confusing part. I don't sit here full of rage. Mostly I feel sad for that version of me, that 14-year-old girl standing in a chemistry lab, pretending she was okay. Because she genuinely thought if people laughed at her body, then maybe she deserved it. And guys, no child should think that. Sometimes I wonder how many adults are still carrying classroom moments inside them. Tiny moments nobody else remembers. Comments, jokes, nicknames. Things that sounded harmless to everyone else, but quietly changed you forever. Maybe you're carrying one too. Next time I want to talk about the boys in school. The ones who used to compare me to a WWE wrestler. Yeah, you heard that right. A WWE superstar. And I think that episode is going to be less about bullying and more about how quickly people laugh when the joke is about a girl's body. How public humiliation becomes entertainment. How nicknames stick. And how sometimes you start introducing yourself to the world using the insults people gave you first. I'll see you next week, guys, with another diary entry.